first pick.
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of On the Clock, the Just Baseball, College Baseball, and MLB Draft Podcast. I'm Jared. We got Jason from 64 Analytics filling in for Tyler, and we are having a special guest with us today. We have Nolan Cain, Associate Head Coach with the University of Texas Longhorns. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Just got out of a meeting, planning for the rest of the week. Travel squads, roommates, all that kind of stuff. So it's game week. It's finally here, and we get to play somebody else, which is awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Before we get kind of into the season, just for the viewers who don't know who you are, just give a little bit of background on your coaching journey, kind of how you've gotten to where you are today.
Yeah, I was fortunate to play at LSU. From there, as with all great teams that accomplish what their ultimate goal is, which was winning the national championship. When the team's goals are met, everybody's goals are met. And I got to sign free agent with the Detroit Tigers and played a year and a half of professional baseball. And, for me, that time was, kind of getting my doctorate in coaching, right? Like I was fortunate to be there and I knew I wanted to coach. So, I was a pitcher, but I would hang out with the base running coach. I would hang out with the outfield coach. I caught in high school, so be around the catching instructors. So I was just there getting my doctorate in baseball, and then was fortunate to get on staff at LSU as the director of baseball operations. And from there, worked that up into volunteer assistant, which that doesn't exist anymore. And then caught another break and became the recruiting coordinator. And then I was kind of off on my way and had really kind of figured out, the SEC baseball thing a little bit. And, after that, Coach Maneri retired and joined Coach Schlossnagle at Texas A&M. And then this summer bounced over here with him. So
that's awesome. Kind of going into this season, what are some of the expectations for you all as your first year with Texas? Are there any standout newcomers, and kind of what excites you most about this year's roster for you all?
Yeah, just really enjoying these older, veteran guys. The Jalen Floreses, the Rylan Galvans, Kimball Schuslers. Those kids are just, Max Ballou. Those kids are just awesome human beings. They're easy to root for. Their work ethic is unbelievable. Their passion for this place is amazing. So just really excited to enjoy this season with those guys.
Yeah, we were talking, so we recorded a college baseball preview episode. It's going to drop after this last night. We're talking about your team and just like the veteran presence you all have. I think that's something that kind of gets overlooked a lot of times in college baseball, is really having those older guys. Talk a little bit more about kind of like Max specifically. What does he kind of bring to the team? I know he's one of the top picks potentially for the 2025 MLB draft, had an incredible year last year. Kind of what does he mean for you all?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of our catalyst. He's the guy that kind of makes us go. He's got 5 tools. He can run. He's got an above average arm in the outfield. He plays a right field here, which I didn't realize until we got here. Right field here is extremely difficult with the sun and the wind. He plays it phenomenally. And then the bat to ball skill is really, really good. And then the power, the ball just absolutely explodes off his bat. Yeah, he's kind of like the guy that he's got to have that really good season for us, to have that great year that we want to have. I mean, he's going to have to roll out there and, hit 320 with, 20 pumps. And, that's easily attainable, not because the SEC conference, obviously it's the upper echelon of college baseball, but, the ballparks are favorable. A lot of the players here have asked me, like, well, what are the ballparks like in the SEC? Because, I didn't play in the Big 12. I don't really know anything about it. It sounds like there's some more favorable ballparks in the SEC compared to the Big 12.
Yeah, I love that. Before I turn to Jason, just for you, I know you've been at programs like Texas A&M, LSU. You got your experience playing professional ball. How have all those experiences for you kind of developed the core values and principles you have for your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, I think, I still, as a freshman at LSU, I was given the number 39, and I still wear that to this day. It's a reminder to me that baseball is really hard. And, you can go recruit these kids, and you can bring them in and you can work with them. And, we're all trying to expedite their development, right? I mean, with new pitching machines and with TrackMan and Rapsodo and all this stuff, like everything we're trying to do is just expedite them. With these new, the eye pitch, these guys can go get 200 at bats in a week off of some sort of a level of caliber of SEC pitcher. So whatever we can do to expedite their experience is what our ultimate goal is. But it's also remembering that development is different for everybody.
Yeah.
Some guys step in and it may not even be the best player that you thought was going to be in that class, but for some reason he just gets it a little bit quicker than another guy. So, development can take 2 months, 6 months. Some guys, it takes them a year and a half before they're playing every day at this level of baseball. And I think trying to be there for every one of those kids, and to let them know, like, hey man, like maybe your developmental curve's taking a little bit longer. You play on the left side of the infield, and we have 2 older phenomenal players already. Be patient, stick with us. We're going to keep working with you. We're going to keep getting you every at bat that we can when the season's going on. On Wednesdays, we do sim games for the pitchers that didn't throw that weekend and on the midweek game, and for the guys that didn't get a lot of at bats. So just trying to constantly, bring them along, and then making sure they're getting in the right summer ball situations. If you've got 25 at bats in the spring, you probably need to go to the Northwoods League where you can get 240 in the summer. So just trying to, just help every kid along this process. And, that's why I still wear that number to this day. It's just a reminder that, I wasn't a really good pitcher until my junior and senior year. It takes time. So it's just a reminder that college baseball is hard, especially in the SEC.
Yeah, I love that mentality.
Perfect. Hey, Coach, hope you're doing well. So I know you mentioned that you got your doctorate in the minors, and you've coached at LSU, you've played at LSU, coached at Texas A&M, now Texas. 3 of the biggest names in the sport right now. What do you see as kind of similarities or differences between those elite programs that you're trying to bring over to Texas, and also you're trying to highlight at Texas?
Yeah, all 3 of these places are super unique in their own way, and they're all awesome. I mean, I've been very fortunate not just to be at great places where you have the platform and the access to recruit great players, but to work for unbelievable, coaches and work with assistant coaches. So, yeah, I mean, I think, bringing this program into the SEC, this is every player on this team is a first-year player for us. So them really grasping and understanding what we're trying to do on offense. We want to maximize our time on offense and minimize our time on defense. So, we want to get our pitch and, swing the least and do the most damage. And then, when we're on defense, we just want to get off the field quickly, fill the strike zone up, keep them swinging, make the routine plays, limit the walks. So it sounds very, very simple, but it's the compounding effect of everything that we do in practice every single day. And then Coach Schlossnagle, always has a great saying, is like, just do what we do. We've played the game in these scrimmages, the way we practice, the way that we're in the cages, the way that you're in the bullpens. We've done it every single day. Just because the game starts doesn't mean we need to rise to the occasion. Just do what we do. Trust your mental game, trust your routines, trust your breathing, recenter, execute, and just win one pitch at a time. It sounds so coachy, but it's not. It's literally the fabric of our program.
No, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned a couple of the advanced analytics sites like the TrackMan and the Rapsodo, and the SEC this year, they're getting the actual data on field this year. Are you seeing like the players, are they enjoying that kind of instantaneous feedback? How are you all trying to utilize that also within your coaching? Is it something that you're embedding pretty aggressively, or is it just another tool in the toolbox that y'all are trying to put in your field?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely everywhere in our facility. These guys don't throw a bullpen without TrackMan, whether it's the stadium unit or our mobile unit. Every pitch is graded. These guys have a really good understanding of like they can read each other's data. So I just be working with some hitters with Tulo, and then our pitching labs right to the left, and walk over there and be like, oh man, what was that? What was that pitch? And the guy that's sitting down that's not even throwing can just look at the board and read the thing and be like, oh, that's his split finger, or that's his new cutter, or whatever it is. So we keep it on the field during our scrimmages as well, just because we like to have the TrackMan strike zone up there, but we have all the horizontal break and the vertical break and all that stuff. Max had to take it off, take the pitch metrics off, just because he didn't want these guys to turn into like shape monsters and be thinking about their shapes while they're in the game. Because once you hit the mound, it is truly just about competing. The stuff that you have that day is the stuff that you have, right?
Yeah.
So, you can go out there and win a ball game if you don't have your cutter, but you got your 3 other pitches. And so there is definitely has to be a defined line of like, okay, that's over with. This is about competing, right? Once we start the game, we don't really care what your shapes are. Maybe Max he'll obviously have that stuff in the dugout because he wants to know, hey man, this guy's sweeper usually goes at 17 inches. It's going at 14 today. He knows the value of that, makes that pitch drop. Maybe he's not going to utilize that pitch, as much to a left-handed hitter than he normally would, or maybe he just scraps that pitch for the day and just survives off the other stuff. So, it's really exciting because, last year it was just crazy with, just all the stuff that was going on. I'm really glad that the SEC stepped in and said, hey, you can have X, Y, Z. Here's what you're going to have in the dugout. You can have it. We're going to provide it for you. If you have anything else, your head coach is getting thrown out of the game, and nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Even with the spot checking with the hands now, there's always the little small tricks and the things, right? So, but yeah, I'm glad that the SEC. That's a real testament to them to stepping in and just keeping the best conference, and let's not have any, black eyes on the conference.
That makes, I agree with you 100%. And you're talking about the best conference, and best conference a lot of times, gets the best players, and you guys are doing phenomenally in recruiting, both this year, next year. I know you can't talk about next year, but how would you say that like recruiting has changed, for like yourself as a past top 100 recruit to like this year, like the guys you're recruiting right now? Like you've got the portal now, which makes it to where it's instantaneous free agency. You talked about the developmental curve. Sometimes guys are taking a bit longer. How do you balance kind of the conversation of, hey, we're coming in, we want to win right now, but we also want to make you a part of that, with also an understanding of, the portal is a very real reality?
Yeah, I think the way that we want to get to it, and it's kind of the way we did it at our last stop, is, we had to use the portal to really get going, right? And we really clicked on the portal and went to Omaha and finished 3rd in the country that year, and some just amazing kids and amazing players that we're able to pick up and really got us off the ground, right? But the ultimate goal is to do this with high school players and use the portal as a supplement, right? So if you sign 2 shortstops and they end up both going in the top 50 picks, then go sign the best shortstop that's available in the portal, right? And just supplement, you sign 5 left-handed pitchers and 2 of them get drafted in the top 100 picks. Well, what do we need? We need to go get some left-handed pitching. But I think being completely dependent on the portal is a bad way to build a program, because it's the players team. It's coach fed, player led. So you don't want to be starting your culture over every single year. You want those older players to be like, take a younger player off the side and be like, hey man, that's not how we do things here. Whether that's the way we run the bases, the way we go about ourselves inside the facility, it's the players program. So it's really hard to have that if you have, these future rosters that are supposed to be 34 man. If you've got 26 new players every single year, it just makes it really hard to build a program. And that's what we all want to do. But I'm not naive to it either. We have to win. There are a lot of really great players out there that want to play at the University of Texas. And development, like what we said earlier, development is different for every player. I mean, the best pitcher in Major League Baseball now started his career at Air Force. I know those guys.
Hitter and catcher.
From understanding his past,
Yeah.
knowing some of the people on the staff that recruited him there was it wasn't like there was, the kid had 50 offers, he had like 2 or 3, right? So, yeah, I think that players that are at, solid programs that want to challenge themselves at the highest level should be able to go do that. And I think a player that is a freshman that really wants to play and goes, man, I'm not going to play pro ball. I want to play 4 years of college baseball. For him to be at a higher level SEC, ACC, Big 12, Big 10 program and take a step down to go play every day, there's nothing wrong with that either, right? So I think players have more I think it's harder than ever, but players have more options than they've ever had.
Yeah, and I kind of want to build off of what Jason talked about there too, and you mentioned it a little bit in your response, but like trying to develop that team culture with the changing of the transfer portal rules and things like that. What do you, as a coach, kind of instill into your team to like really develop that team chemistry as soon as those doors close as the season gets approaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like blocking out the noise.
Mm-hmm.
This is about us. This is about y'all. This is about our goals, and really just attacking those goals. And just know that like it's not going to just all be rainbows and sunshine. I mean, there are going to be some really, really tough times throughout the year. Every great team I've ever been a part of, and not to steal something from Coach Maneri, is like there is that proverbial fork in the road where like there is 2 options: the road the winners take and the road the losers take. And that's the magic of what Coach Maneri and that's the magic of what Coach Schlossnagel have been able to do just from being an assistant coach, is like take that group of people that are in here every day, from the bullpen catcher to your number 1 starter on the mound to the nutritionist, and go, this is where we're going. We're going this way. And I think when kids are invested in the program, especially at a place like Texas, where this is like playing for the Yankees, this is where a lot of these kids, that's their dream school. They want to be here. I see that with a lot of the older veteran program players in this program. It means a lot to them to put that uniform on there and go represent the state of Texas and Longhorn Nation. And they don't take that lightly. And there are transfers that are here now that those older guys have already taken with them and bringing them along and going, hey, this is what we do. This is how we do it. And now we haven't played a game yet. We played an alumni game here the other day, which was absolutely amazing. This place was jam-packed. And you can already feel those new players going, they really identify with wanting to be here every single day.
I love that. We're going to wrap up with some fun questions, but Jason, do you got any others before we kind of dive into this?
I'm and I know we've already talked a little bit at this, Nolan, like y'all's schedule is just absolutely crazy this year. And you start off at Globe Life. It's interesting. A lot of these round robin tournaments at the beginning of the year for programs like yourself sometimes are like, coming out parties for younger guys. But with your all's schedule, like how do you balance kind of the, hey, we're at a new school, as you said, a lot of these guys, it's year 1 for you guys, new school. How do you balance kind of this auditions with, hey, we need to win these games because we want to make sure our RPI is as good as possible to get us to where we're at, where we want to be at the end of the year?
Yeah, I think we're just embracing the schedule, non-conference wise. It's different for me. Out of our first 5 weekends, we're only at home twice. So it's super unique. We're going to be on the road a lot, which is great, for recruiting, going up to the Dallas area. We're going out to Las Vegas. This is a national footprint, university. We can recruit across the country. So getting to some of those places, especially out towards the West Coast, is super important for us moving forward. So we're just going to take it as, not to be coachy, like literally we're going to just go one pitch at a time. And if there's a game there that's able to be won, we're going to platoon out our 3 best relievers and go for the win. We're going to approach this like an SEC weekend. It's so hard to sweep somebody in the SEC, but it's so easy to get swept. So just don't get swept. Win a game. If there's a game, don't plan for tomorrow. Go win that game, and we'll figure out the next game. We'll figure out Saturday the next day, right? So understanding that, playing really good teams early in the year can really expose some weaknesses, right? So maybe you figure those out a little earlier in the year and you can attack those and make some adjustments than waiting till just SEC play where we open up at Mississippi State in front of 14,000 people
Yeah.
there. Right, we've already played in some big environments.
Yeah.
Maybe we've figured out some pieces that in the lineup, or some matchups that we really like, or some guys in the bullpen really take steps forward, or maybe we develop a starting pitcher that we didn't think was going to be there because the opportunity for that player to start on Tuesday versus Houston is there because we had to use, our top 7-8 options at Globe Life, right? So I don't really look at it as a negative. I really look at it as an opportunity to figure out a lot about our team. We were talking about this, a couple weeks ago when we first started scrimmaging. It's like we know like a fifth about of our team as we're going to know 3 weeks into the season. We're going to know so much more about ourselves and what we can do, what we can't do, well, better, how, what are we doing well? What can we be doing better? How are we going to do better at those things? Sounds very simple. Most things in baseball are simple. And that's what Coach Schlossnagle is really good at is figuring out those pieces very quickly.
Yeah, I was going to mention too, I think it goes back to your point, right, of having those veterans and those guys who have been through it before, because I think the SEC schedule is different. Like if you don't have guys who've gone through that and like know that, hey, you have to reset after every loss or after every win, I think that's huge. And then you guys have a lot of those veterans, which I think is going to be key. Yeah,
100%. I mean, everybody in the SEC, when they get to their 15th conference win, everybody takes a deep breath because you're in a regional, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to have to sweat out the SEC tournament. And it's the league of unforgiveness. It's become a lot about matchups as well. And how teams match up with each other. Are you playing them on the road? Are you playing them at home? And now with more teams in the league, you don't play everybody. So the schedules can be skewed at times, right? But it's still so all I've done is play in it and coaching it, and I really do enjoy it. There are some tough times, some tribulations, some times where you really look yourself in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I should be selling insurance, but there's not a more fun league because everywhere you go, there's big leaguers on the field. It's just so fun. Or you see a young player, you're like, he's only hitting 220 right now, but he's going to be a freaking first team All-American next year. It's fun to see the growth of players, and everybody in the SEC, they can really recruit and they can really develop. So what's going to separate you? And that's what you have to find as a head coach. You have to find those little small things that are going to separate your program from other programs, not just in recruiting, but also on the field when it comes down to this, like the ultimate reason we're all here is to win. We all want to win. How do you spell fun? W-I-N.
I love it. We're going to just wrap up with a couple fun questions just to kind of to get things wrapped up here. First one is, so I know you're probably focusing on baseball 24/7, but like what do you do to unwind or relax or passions away from the game that help you kind of get yourself away from the things that happen on the field?
Yeah, it's amazing that I have a wife and 2 kids. My wife played softball and she coached college in softball. She coached college softball. She was a recruiter, so she knows what I've got to do. She's absolutely amazing. And then I've got a 12-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter. And when I'm not here or on the phone or at a ballpark, I'm really just hanging out with them.
Yeah.
I don't hunt. I don't fish. I've shot a gun like 3 times my whole life. Like I have no hobbies. Like it's my family and baseball. And that's really all I have. So I know that's a pretty boring answer, but yeah, that's what I do.
I love it. The last question we've been asking every coach is, if you could coach any team, past or present, who would it be and why? So putting you on the spot a little bit here.
Any team that I could have coached?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be any sport, anything.
Oh wow, man, that group of guys that I played with at LSU had been there with the coaching change. The new coaching staff was amazing with Paul Maneri, Cliff Godwin, Terry Rooney, Javi Sanchez, Will Davis, some really, really great names in college baseball, and they brought in some really good players. And to eventually win the national championship as a senior, you know, being on this side of it, the players only know what they know. They show up, there's the practice plan, they have it, but they don't know that we've been here for 6 hours already. Just, you always go as a coach, like, you want to coach them to the player that they're going to be, not that the player that they are. I see this in you. We're going to coach you to this standard and this level. And so the time that it takes to do that, I think I would have wanted to been on that coaching staff with those guys. You know, Cliff Godwin, Terry Rooney, my best friend in the world, Will Davis, who's the head coach at Lamar now, who's done a phenomenal job. I think to be on that coaching staff with them and just go through it on the other side, not as a player where you just show up and you play the game and you go to practice, you throw your bullpen, you go to weights, you go to class, and then you go to hang out with your buddies. Right. I think I would have wanted to been on the other side to see what that feels like, to be a national championship coach. And so I think I would have gone back and coached that team.
No, I love that answer. That was an absolutely loaded staff too, by the way. That's nuts. Coach, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us and On the Clock. We know the season's upcoming. We'll be at Shriners watching you all. And we're just excited for the season to start. I'm going to be wishing you nothing but the best.
Let's do it again. Let's talk some draft when we get closer.
Yeah, sounds great to us.
All right. Y'all have a great day.
All right. You as well, Coach.